Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. Last week, we discussed some of the pre-published adventures, such as The First Step, Bridge 9, and then we also talked about the World Guide. This week, we're actually going to be talking about prep tools and GM tools that are available. So, Irving, you've got a lot more experience with this than I do, so I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Yeah, and kind of like I do for all of my GM prep, I made a list of things. I actually I got
Nice.
a pad of paper and wrote down with a pen all these like various things I use in sort of my method, which is the exact same kind of prep I do for a TTRPG game. You get a piece of paper and you sort of make an outline of like the major story beats you want to hit, and you kind of go from there. You be like, okay, I need to prep a map here, I need to get some skill DCs here, and you sort of go from there. That doesn't work for everyone, but honestly, I can only talk about what works for me. There are plenty of podcasts and YouTube videos of people giving GM advice that's like slightly different, and we'll recommend those probably at the end, I believe. But
Yep.
yeah, again, like my biggest advice, make a checklist of your major like story beats. So, let's take a famous story, say the original Star Wars. The first checkpoint is, well, the C3PO and R2D2 need to escape the ship. They need to get the plans and escape. So that's an event. I'd probably run that as an endeavor. They land, and then they need to meet up with the next character, Luke. They go about that different ways. That's a story beat, etc., etc. And you kind of like, you can take any sort of movie plot or book plot and plot it out that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of what I've ran have been pre-planned adventures, but I've done a few one-shots that I've developed myself, and I do the same. I use, as far as like a physical tool, I'm a little more. You use a lot of like paper and pen from what we've talked about. I use a lot of like I use my iPad for a lot of stuff, so I use OneNote a lot. Because like I just need to be able to like compartmentalize different things. So like I have a TTRPG folder in my OneNote. That way I've got, if I'm working on Stormlight stuff, I can do this. If I'm working on a homebrew, I can do this. If I'm working on a one shot, I've got something there. And that way I can have a checklist in front of me of like, these are the beats I want to hit. And then, that way I can go through and just have them in front of me. I'm not necessarily reading a script, but it at least helps me, as I'm sure everyone has figured out from this podcast, I can ramble. So it helps me get back into the story beats I
Helps keep
have
you
so
on
that,
track.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
use the Notes app on my phone, since it's an iPhone, is functionally OneNote.
Hmm.
Uh, I use that for like world building ideas. Like if I'm coming up with like a cool scene or the captain of the guard they're gonna encounter, and I want to like have some notes for the captain of the guard, I just make a note. Captain Bumbletusk, and he sounds like this, and I'll like type a line of dialogue with his quote unquote accent,
Yeah.
just to like sort of ground myself in doing the voice.
Yeah, I mean, and since we're talking CosmereRPG, like I do enjoy that a lot of their pre-written adventures, their one-shots, like Speak the Words and Stonewalkers, all that good stuff, has like a little blurb about like, this is General Jathid. He is X, Y, and Z, and this is how he would normally react in a scenario. Like it just gives you enough to be like, my General Jathid is going to sound different from your General Jathid, but like we at least have a good overall concept of like what that NPC is going to sound like.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you a good bit of questions on this one probably, because like we
yeah.
said, you've got a lot more experience with this than I do.
I've been doing this for a minute.
So like, how much prep work do you put in? So like, I've watched a ton of. If anybody knows me, I'm an over prepper. So before I even ran one game, I probably watched 7 different YouTube videos and series about how to prep. But like a general rule of thumb I've heard is if you have like a 2-hour session, until you're comfortable, it's going to take you probably about half of that to prep the session.
Oh, I
Do
think
you?
more. I think
Okay,
when you're new, you might like for a 2-hour session, you might prep 3 hours if you
gotcha.
like when you're new. And that's sort of the like time spent prepping and experience are definitely like an inverse correlation
Hmm.
where like, the more comfortable you get, the more it's just like, all right, like I have a standard list of DCs for endeavors. If the skill makes a lot of sense and they describe it well, it's a 12. If it's a sort of average description or like it's, the normal range, 15. And then if they're picking a skill that doesn't really make sense or they have a very tenuous explanation for how they're using it, 17 plus. Uh, so like I have that ingrained in my memory. I don't need to write that down anymore. Whereas like a new person's going to sit there and agonize about what DCs to set for almost every skill.
Yeah, I have been
Uh,
surprised at how quickly I moved away from it.
yeah.
Like after a
Um,
couple sessions, like I almost just wing my DCs. And it is very much. It's funny because we've actually never talked about this, about how we come up with that. But like the chart you just laid out in my head, like a lot of times I will reward my players for like really explaining a really good way to do it. Sometimes you're going to get a plot die thrown in there, but like if you have a really good grasp on what you're trying to do, the DC is probably going to be a little lower. Whereas if you're just like, I'm just going to use this skill because I'm high at it and it doesn't really make sense in this moment, but I'm going to use it, that DC might be a little higher than it should be because it doesn't really make
Absolutely.
sense for
Yeah.
the scenario.
Exactly. If you're trying to peacefully persuade someone, a heavy weapons test does not does not work
Right.
well. You better be doing something fancy. Yeah, yeah. So I honestly think the making a checklist of my major plot points, like 30 minutes of doing that can last me 2 to 3 sessions.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
you have an idea of where you want your story to go, and this isn't counting the time that I spend driving around for work, and then I'm just like, I am physically aware of the road, but mentally I am prepping the D&D or the tabletop RPG session. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, man, if Josh's character does this, what do I do? That sort of daydreaming headspace is somewhere I am frequently, and I don't count that as prep time. Maybe you could.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
either. So I think that's why I was like, oh, probably like half of what the session, because I don't think of that as prep. When I think of prep, I think of I'm sitting in front of my computer, I'm typing out what I need to do, I'm getting my GM screen ready. Like that's what I think of with prep. So maybe that's why I was like an hour for a 2 hour session, because that's me physically prepping.
And so, thingy there, you said getting your GM screen ready. My GM screen doesn't really change much anymore.
Mine, when I'm saying get my GM screen ready, like, because I run almost exclusively online. You actually run mostly in person.
Yeah. Well,
So
honestly, I do a lot more online now. I just have a semi-regular in-person group.
jealous. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, like so like because I use Foundry, like I have a GM screen app basically in Foundry that I have like the regular stuff that's on the CosmereRPG GM screen anyway. But like if I
Mhm.
know I've got so just because I'm running Stonewalkers on the top of my head, like there was a specific scene that what were we doing? Oh, we're running the chapter 2. So it's got like these are the rumors you could hear. This is so like I'll put those on my GM screen because I need those for this session, but then obviously I'm not going to need them in chapter 3, 4, 5. So I'll take them off there. My GM screen physically when I'm running does have a lot of like sticky notes that's like, hey, idiot, remember to roll the plot die. Hey, like I'll do a lot of that where it's reminders more than anything else.
For sure. But yeah, so that checklist, like pound for pound, it is the most effective prep for me. Now there are things that can sort of extend the time of the checklist. So when you do it, you'll be like, all right, this is an endeavor scene, this is a negotiation or a conversation in this system, or this is a combat. Combats pretty much always require a map, at least how I like to run them. I like to be a little bit more tactical and force people to like consider terrain, and that can take time. If I'm running in person, a lot of times because I have these magnetic terrain tiles, and
I've always
they're
thought about
really
buying
cool.
those.
Uh, these came from a Kickstarter that was like so improperly run. I accidentally got sent my rewards 3 times, so I have a ton of them.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. Got 3 T-shirts that all say the same thing. But so like those I can like piece out like Legos, and I generally have an idea of like what I want something to look like. But I will like make the map, and then I will like do a sketch of it on grid paper. And it like if you can get a notepad of grid paper, you can get the stuff that fits in a 3-ring binder. But I've never had a 3-ring binder that's lasted more than like a month.
Yeah.
they always have one of the rings get messed up, and I can't freaking stand it. So I have like a legal pad from a bank that's grid paper that I use for drawing my maps a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh, Although I will say, if you only draw maps for combat, you will Pavlov your players into when they see a map, they think they're gonna fight. Uh, so like choose what you map as fits best for you in your table.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those of it like for someone like me that plays a lot online, like do we want to start going into like some of the online resources, some of the tools that you can
Yeah, I
use?
definitely have some idea of tools, at least when it comes to maps for online.
Cool. But I'll go with what I have, and you probably know more than I do. I did sign up for a Patreon for like a month and just like downloaded a bunch of stuff, and then I just haven't had the chance to use them, so I did stop subscribing for a moment. But
Who was it?
It was Forgotten Adventures. They
Okay.
have a lot of great stuff, and I still get the emails. So like I'll buy some of their stuff a la carte because they give you the option, which I appreciate. Um,
Yeah.
like because I'm running pre-planned adventures, like I bought the Stonewalkers set, so I have all the maps already in Foundry or Roll20, whichever one I want to use.
There's
But
plenty of places that need additional maps in Stonewalkers.
for sure, like I've been using some of the ones that, honestly, even r/CosmereRPG, there have been people that have just been very
Oh
graciously
God,
posting.
what is there? There's the one person that keeps making Dungeon Alchemist maps that are so good.
Oh,
Uh,
I will look that up while you're
what
talking
is
about.
their username?
I'll look it up while you're talking
Because
about
every time
Dungeon
I see it,
Alchemist.
I comment on them because they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think I've actually
Um,
got it here. Go ahead, and then I'll
yeah, so
once I
Dungeon
find it, I'll let you know.
Alchemist, I've heard affectionately called like, oh, this is just a video game maker, and it is. It's a really cool 3D map generator. Basically, you very much similar to how like current uh, generative models work. Like it populates a room with their assets just based on the room. Like you could select alchemist laboratory in a castle, and that'll give it like a set to piece like set number of art pieces to pull from to distribute throughout the room. You can also just make blank rooms and populate them yourself. Uh, and listen, this tool was developed before the whole AI boom. It's not using Chat GPT or any sort of generative AI. No, like no one here on this podcast is going to promote that. Like either way, Dungeon Alchemist, you might think like it's very similar to AI tools. It is not AI, but it is very fun to use, and I think it's worth the money. I backed it when it was a Kickstarter thing, so I don't know how much they charge now. Have you looked at it,
I've
Kyle?
looked it up. It's like 40 or 45. And the
Yeah,
only
okay.
reason I've
Well,
looked it up is I'm going to be like I'm going to buy it at some point, but it's like I'm waiting for a Steam sale first. Um,
yeah.
just because I don't know how much I'll use it, so I'm like I don't want to buy it at full price just yet.
And
Um,
actually, I have a pretty cool chasms map that I think we should have the ability to put that with this episode, right? We can include like a PDF in the description.
I think so. I'll have to ask Krishna about that, but I think we can. I
Okay,
just don't
yeah.
know how to do it.
I will share a map I've made of the cat like a section of the chasms for anyone to use if they want in the description of this video. So if you're listening on a podcast platform, hop over to like a Spotify. And anyone's free to take that and use that for their games if they wish.
Did find the person I don't know what pronouns they use, so I'll just say they. Aloe Vera Waters on
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Cosmere RPG has like I'm just looking at they have the market, they have the Devotery of the Mind. I think no, like they post a lot of really good stuff. They even have like a I think they posted the like adversaries by tier and tier lists. That's the folio you've been looking for, just without the actual stat blocks, but it at least like
Yeah.
delineates like these are your minions, these are your
Well, it
rivals.
tells you where some of them are too, but not all of them.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like r/Cosmere RPG is low key like a good place to find a lot of resources because people in the Cosmere RPG community are very giving. I'll give another quick plug too for Tom that runs Invested in the Cosmere, a YouTube channel. He's been doing a lot of maps. Like he has like a Shadesmar encounter map. Like he has a few different ones that he's just messing around with. I think he's using Dungeon Draft, which is what Tyler from the Shard of Opportunity uses.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a little bit of Dungeon Alchemist mostly. There's also Dungeon Draft, which we just mentioned. Very good. I think you have to buy your assets separately on there. I haven't used it, but I've seen it used to amazing effect by Tyler from Shard of Opportunity and Cosmere Conversations. It's great. He's good at doing it. He has a nice video walking through the platform if you want to check that out. That is on the channel. Another one, so I've used this mostly for world maps for my own setting. Incarnate, they also do have like making a battle map options, but their world map tools are what I'm most familiar with and I like quite a bit. Obviously, it has a subscription model, so there will be some things you can't use unless you have a subscription. But
Yeah, almost
if
all
it's
of
worth
these.
it to you, go ahead for it. Uh, I've also heard of Dungeon Fog. They've sponsored people's videos, not us though. Unsponsored life. And then Dungeon Scrawl is another one I've heard of.
Yeah, you've already covered way more than I've heard of for those for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and now sort of a big thing. All of these tools have a learning curve. I use Dungeon Alchemist maybe once every 2 months, and I spend the first 30 minutes messing around with it, relearning how to mess with it.
right.
Uh, Pen and paper will always be quicker. You've all been drawing or writing with a pen or a pencil for years at this point. It'll always be quicker for you to draw something down on a piece of paper and then translate it to a dry erase mat if you have one on your table. Uh,
As
this is
far
the yeah,
oh,
the making
no,
maps online is probably the thing that increases prep time the most, especially for, sure, if you have the image, you can upload it to Roll20 or upload it to Foundry and set it as the background, but like resizing it, getting sure it's all properly like lit, that's what takes a lot of time and is a big learning curve. And obviously, as you get more experience, that time goes down, but it can be a bit of a barrier to some people, I know.
yeah,
Uh,
for sure. And that's actually a good segue into some of those. And we probably should plug some of those virtual tabletops. Just in the like, we've talked about how you prep the session. So then we've talked about the maps that you're prepping for it. Do we want to cover anything else from prep first before we move on to virtual tabletops?
Uh, I mean, so these are things that I think are a little bit more niche in prep. If you have some NPCs that you know your players are going to encounter, they're always going to ask a name. So instead of shopkeep, put their name. Maybe like they care about this, they don't like this. Give yourself some notes to work from, and also so you can like go back and reference. So 3 sessions later, when they're like, "Oh, when we were talking to shopkeeper," checks their notes, Jorn, and I think you mean John. Uh, there's always that like transliteration of people messing up names, and just having like a little bit of a record is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think and I'll get to it a little more in the like some of the podcasts and stuff you can watch. But like, I actually saw Matt Mercer do like a real quick, like 5 minute video of like what's behind my DM screen. I've seen him, I've seen Jenny D, I've seen a ton of them do it, and he actually has like a random list of names. So
Yeah,
like, just
that's a very common table on the GM screen.
yep,
Uh, Gosh, I think the best list of names I've had, sorry, this is a tangent, on a DM screen was the DM screen for Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. It's a 5th edition adventure set in like their version of ancient Greece.
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But that had like a very good uh, list of names on that GM screen, and I'll always remember I ended up coming up with like Basil Longtoe for the name of a goblin because
That's
Basil
fantastic.
was on the list of first names on that GM screen. Uh,
There's one guy that I watched a lot of his videos to prep the DM layer. His name's Luke, and he had one that was a goblin that was called Bob the Intern, and it was literally just because like they captured the goblin, and then he just kept following the party around, and they ended up giving him an entire storyline where he like got promoted to full time employee, like
that's
which
cute.
was it was hilarious. Like he references Bob the Intern all the time, so like don't be afraid to get goofy with some of it too.
Oh
Not
yeah.
everything has to be super serial all the time.
Gosh, Tyler does this great, like, impish waif voice, is the only way to describe it. And in a game we were playing, he uses it for, like, a runner for the Alethi military. And that kid's going places. I want him to continuously show up throughout the adventure.
Nice.
So, like, yeah, get, like, a memorable character. sort of,
adversaries, like, it's still a good
yeah,
idea to,
yeah,
like, have your stat blocks prepped, stuff like that. That doesn't take
yeah.
typically too long, but, like, I like to where I like I said, where I do it digitally, I like to screenshot them, that way I can just pull them up, and I don't have to keep, like, looking them up in the book.
Yeah.
Uh
So what I'll do for adversaries is I'll write down adversary name, uh, what page they're found on,
mhm,
in whatever format I'm using. So if I'm using a PDF, it's the PDF page, physical book page. And then I'll do their important things: physical defense, cognitive defense, spiritual defense, and health. And then that's all I need at a glance. And if like when it's their turn, I pop open their page of whatever book I'm using. Uh,
cool.
yeah, that's my advice for adversaries. I think for endeavors and stuff and events, you can those are very easy prep events. You just sort of have your check boxes essentially and like a list of like the criteria that activates them. Endeavors, again, I don't really need my list of DCs anymore, but like if there's a special one that I want to hit, I'll put it in there, or something I think will be especially relevant. I'll note it down. But other than that, we're on to sort of the tabletop and what tabletop you use to prep. So Kyle, why don't you introduce us to virtual tabletops?
Yeah, there's a few different ones that you can actually specifically buy, like the Cosmere materials for. There's Demiplane slash Roll20. There's Foundry and Fantasy Grounds is there. I honestly have yet to talk to anyone that's used it. I'm not trying to bash Fantasy Grounds. I just like the two most common that I see are Roll20 and Foundry. They
I
do have
think
different models. Demiplane Roll20, like Demiplane is the like where your compendiums are and where you can build characters, and then Roll20 is the actual virtual tabletop that you like go into to play and roll and all that good stuff. And you can link your Demiplane character sheet to Roll20. Those you buy the individual modules. If you want all of the special effects and stuff you can do, like having dynamic lighting, building walls to block your characters in, you do have to pay for a subscription. And same with that subscription crosses over to Demiplane 2, which unlocks the the ability to create unlimited characters. Like I was joking yesterday, I think I have 25 that I've created just to play out the different talent trees, mostly for the podcast, to be honest.
yeah,
Um, they're literally called like Shardbearer, Agent, Leader, Windrunner.
I have not built any until we formally have one of those episodes on the schedule.
Oh, we don't worry, I will redo them then as well. Um, and then Foundry, you pay a one-time license fee, so it doesn't have the subscription, but you do have to pay, I believe it's $50 up front. But then once you pay that, like you have that for any games that you play on there. And then you do have to buy the individual modules. So you would buy like the handbook, the world guide, the first step, speak the words, whatever you want to buy.
In addition to
Um,
your $50.
Correct. You just don't have to
Okay.
pay the monthly fee to have like the dynamic lighting, like all of that's there once you pay the one time $50.
Okay.
Um, so there, it's like two different things. Because on Demiplane 2, like you have the subscription and then you have to buy the modules. They're just they're two different models. Um, so yeah, I love the Demiplane character creator. More like it's possibly my favorite thing
It's a
out
good
there.
quality one. I do feel like ever since they got bought by Roll20 or they bought Roll20, it functions a lot slower. Like there's a noticeable site lag.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Which is actually what drives me nuts when you link your character sheet when I'm
Oh
playing in
god, it's
Roll20,
so slow.
because the lag is atrocious. Uh,
Hmm.
then Roll20, like that's where you would load in. You can load all of your demiplane stuff on there. That way, you've got your maps, you've got your tokens, you've got your adversaries, so you can just drag and drop onto your tabletop. And Foundry has the same thing. Like you go to the compendium, you can drag and drop your talents when you're building your characters. You can drag and drop your ancestries. They are functionally similar. I think personally, I think Roll20 is a little, am I going to say easier to learn? I don't know. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there to learn all of these. I definitely use YouTube videos all the time for these.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
that's
say,
my recommendation
because
is
I'm not going to say
someone
either
on
one.
YouTube.
Yeah, because I'm definitely not going to say that either one has an easy learning curve, just to be perfectly honest, because that's where me being a new
I don't
GM,
think they do.
yeah, me being a new GM, that's something I've really had to learn this year. Um, I've
Yeah.
gotten to the point for both of them where I can pretty much do what I need to do. I know that I'm not using all the capabilities, but that's neither here nor
Oh
there.
no, neither am I. And I've been using Roll20 since 2014.
Right.
Although I do really like just importing my maps in there and resizing them. It's a lot quicker than using or like trying to search through their free assets to make a map in Roll20. I spent too many years doing that instead of getting just a map PDF and importing it.
Yeah, I do a lot of just the PDF importing because I can, so many people post stuff on Reddit for free that it's just like, hey, I need a lab experiment room. I'm sure you're laughing because I use that map all the time now,
Yeah,
but
you do.
that's my default. Like, hey, we want to like roll around with a combat. I'm going to use this map again.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like I was able to find one on Reddit pretty quickly.
Yeah,
The
maybe
catch
it was
there is just
different
make
in
sure
like
you're not stealing.
2018, the last time
Maybe.
I was really running a game on Roll20 consistently. It's so weird to remember things pre-pandemic.
Right.
But yeah, there's tons of great maps online. I know I think I'm just a free follower on Patreon of Shepeku.
Okay.
They've gone on to like have a sponsor spot on Critical Role, which is amazing. That costs a lot of money. But Shepeku, they make such great maps. Just a great quality art style, lots of generic scenes, and they do all sorts of versions of a map. They'll have 4 times a day, 4 seasons, yada yada. Uh, and even free, you get access to a lot of maps. You can pay, I think, to get like a full Dropbox folder or whatever, but their stuff's pretty great. If you just want ready-made maps, you don't want to bother with it too much. That's my recommendation for someone to follow.
Nice.
Not
Yeah, and
sponsored, but their stuff's great.
yeah, and I'll try to get that added into the YouTube description as well. I'll have to remember to make a note of all these.
Yeah, yeah. So
Just so we can give
Shepeku
someone
is
some shit.
CZEPEKU.
I'll look it up.
I'll
That's
look it up
close
right
enough.
now.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, I mean
that's how you
that's just
spell
a
it.
cool. I mean, and that's just like a general high level overview there of the like of the virtual tabletops. We don't need to go into like what they do, how they do them. We'll give a plug for the Metalworks team for Foundry because they built. I don't know that Foundry was originally even part of the Kickstarter, but like there was a very passionate team that went in and built all of the Cosmere stuff in Foundry, and they actually ended up getting hired on by Brotherwise to officially make the CosmereRPG content on Foundry.
That is pretty
Also,
great, and it is nice to have a plot die that just works.
yeah,
I don't know. Does Roll20 have a plot die now?
Demiplane does.
I
So I
think
think if
if
you
you
link,
are rolling through Demiplane, you can, yeah.
yeah. Um,
Which takes
but yeah,
forever.
definitely wanted to give the Metalworks team a shout out because, like, one of the guys on their dock is a buddy of ours, and he like they put a lot of work into it and are very passionate about the Cosmere RPG and making sure that it looks as good as it possibly can in Foundry. So
Yeah, they
always want to
they
give
do
them
a
a
great
shout out.
job.
And the
Uh,
Demiplane team also because like they've since day one, Demiplane has been liking, like retweeting, like whatever
yeah,
the
I
term for
love
it is now.
Demiplane's character builder. It's awesome.
Yeah, and the team at Demiplane and Roll20, like they're super cool. Like I've interacted with some of them on Reddit and found and Discord. Like they're just as passionate about this RPG as we are. So definitely shout outs to them.
Yeah,
So do we want to finish up with just some good resources? So what I was thinking is we'll just hit like some good resources as far as like some podcast, actual plays to take a look at.
yeah,
Eventually I'll do an episode where I'll take the lead a little more about like kind of like my GM journey as far as, hey, I determined in December of 2024 I'm going to start GMing the Cosmere RPG. Literally
yeah.
decided that
I
at Dragonsteel Nexus. So it was like, how did I go from haven't even played a game in like 10 years to now I'm running pretty regularly all the time.
Yeah, no,
So
I'd
I
be
can
super
talk about the
interested to do
resources.
that episode. I'm excited for that one.
Yep. So
Yeah, yeah. So resources for beginner GMs that I think are super helpful. Matthew Colville has a series called Running the Game that stretches all the way back in time to 2014, or maybe 2015. I forget. Uh, I've been a fan of his for a very long time now. I honestly can't tell you when I started watching him, but uh, been a huge fan. That like a lot of those early videos are just great catch-all videos for any RPG. It is through the lens of D&D, but there's a lot of overlap in sort of the philosophy of how to run a game. And he's been like massively influential on my style. not just as like a GM, but as a podcaster also. Uh, so I like big ups to him for sure. I also really like the Dungeon Dudes. Theirs is a little more focused on D&D, but they also have some like good house rule videos or just like general uh, ways like decorum at the table stuff that's really worth it. And they're cool, inventive guys. I enjoy their content they've made quite a bit. Uh, Kyle, what are some ones that you like?
So I can definitely reiterate running the game and Dungeon Dudes. I know when I reached out to you about learning to GM, you'd recommended running the game, and I watched, I think, the whole playlist before I started running games. Um,
You don't have to do that. There's so many of those videos. You don't have to watch all of them.
At the time, I had like an hour to an hour and a half drive to work every day, so I was in the car for
Yeah.
3 hours a day. So I was listening to it like a podcast. But yeah, like it's a lot of great, and it's almost all of these are going to be very Dungeons and Dragons based. But the philosophy is still important. So like maybe some of the details about like initiative and stuff like that is obviously going to be different. I liked there's I want to say he's from the UK. I just don't remember if he's from Scotland or England. But there's a guy that's How to Be a Great GM who has a lot of like really fun videos. There's a guy named Luke who I've mentioned does the DM layer. He has a lot of good like 5 to 10 minute videos about like, hey, you're wanting to take that step. Here's some of the recommendations I have. Jenny D is
Yeah,
also good.
D&D. I should have mentioned her. Her stuff is like I recently started listening to hers, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. I think she brings like a fresh perspective to a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones like Diana the Rose, I think is her name, where she does a lot of like, if you really want to mess with your players and like do something just different. Here's a fun little thing I did in a game recently. She mostly focuses on like the cosplay side of stuff too for conventions, but she
Mhm.
has a lot of really cool like out of the box ideas that kind of break away from the norm. And then the other thing I would mention if you're wanting to learn is some actual plays. Like, and no matter what game you're wanting to learn, like just watching people play the game, you will pick up so much stuff just from that because it's to me it helps solidify like I'm reading this on the page, but I'm not sure I can like visualize watch an actual play.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Kyle, where can you find some good actual plays for the Cosmere RPG?
There's a few different places, but the number one is going to be the Shard of Opportunity. Right now, we have two different campaigns that are ongoing. There's the Loose Cannons, which is ran by CJ, which is a homebrew in the Cosmere RPG. And then we have Cannon Walkers, which is ran by Scott, which is running through Stonewalkers. And then there's a couple one shots. The Cannon Walkers did Bridge 9. Krishna ran a Halloween special. Depending on when this episode airs, there might be some other ones out there. Honestly, I don't remember
I
exactly.
mean, the big old celebrity one shot is out.
That is out now.
I
Yep.
spent so much time watching that Friday.
I know. I listened to it on the
Do it in chunks,
podcast.
people. Do it in chunks.
I play well because I had already listened to the podcast. I'm not gonna lie. I put it on in my living room, and that was like my Thanksgiving Day prep, or not Thanksgiving Day, Black Friday prep. While I was shopping and stuff, it was just playing in my living room. So Tyler invaded my living room for 6 hours.
There you go.
But then there are some other ones as well. Brotherwise Games and Dragonsteel combined to do a one shot Echoes of the Father. I
Echoes
think
of
is
the
what it's called.
Father. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, with a lot of high rollers, alum, even
Yep.
some big voice actor slash just general actor folk.
Yep, and there's a couple of from as you mentioned the high rollers during the Kickstarter campaign. They actually did a one shot that they partnered with Brotherwise to do. Uh, I'm a big fan of that one because that's actually the gentleman that ran Echoes of the Father, Jasper. He was a player in the high rollers one. And then there's a ton. You can find Bridge 9 like
There's
all
the
over the place.
there's plenty of Bridge 9. There's also the Great Herdasian Hog Heist, which I believe has
Mhm.
Johnny O'Neill on it.
Yep, that one.
I think that's like a
Merrick.
Brotherwise crew one,
Yeah,
and
I
that
think
one is
Merrick ran
hilarious.
two of them. Yeah, the Great Hertazian Hog Heist is great. They even included it in the Stormlight Scenarios
Yeah,
supplement
I
that
was
came
gonna
out.
plug that. It's in Stormlight Scenarios. I was so happy to see it.
They also did like I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was like Murder in the Vizier's Tower, which is another one that takes place in the Aegis Empire that Merrick ran.
Oh, I
And
missed
then
that one.
Yeah, and then right around the launch of the RPG, Doc, who we mentioned, ran for Brotherwise. It was like a demo for Foundry, but he ran Speak the Words, which is one of the one shots that they made available as well. So there are quite a few different options to see. I mean, obviously, Dimension 20, Critical Role are always going to be out there. Like those are the biggest ones in the space. But there's a surprising amount for an RPG that's only been out at this point 4 months that you can go observe and
Gosh, has
watch.
it really only been 4 months?
Yeah, it launched in July.
Holy
So
cow.
yeah, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of podcasts, a lot of actual plays, so you can get some experience on how to learn how to DM and then also or GM and then also see the game in action. So
Yeah. Other than that, get out there and play, folks. That's the easiest way. If you're intimidated, I'm sure if you get on the Cosmere RPG Discord, go in the looking for group section, you can find someone to play with pretty quickly. That or Reddit.
yep,
Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze.
all good.
Okay,
Uh,
no, I didn't.
oh, there
Uh,
you
you
go.
just needed to threaten me while I was talking. Uh, and that's really how you get experience doing this stuff, is throwing yourself out there, getting to it, and don't worry about the little mistakes you're going to make along the way, because when in doubt, the sponsor of today's video, Kleenex. Kleenex always has your back. No, we're not sponsored, and I don't think Kleenex is actually a company. I think it's like GE Johnson. But that's it from us, folks. Kyle, why don't you take us away?
So let's roll our plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.